What's up, you guys? Sean Ross, Sapp, Fightful.com. It is June 11th. We're bringing you this a little bit later than normal. It's the In Your House preview, the prediction show. We got an interview with Kyle O'Reilly up right now over on FightfulSelect.com. I just dropped some new NXT news in regards to a contract, but we're going to make some predictions right now. And we got Joey Karni of the Angle podcast. You're doing all kinds of interviews. Joey, how you doing?
Good, man. I'm doing great. I appreciate you inviting me on here to talk.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of your stuff lately. We encourage everybody to check that out. He's doing all kinds of interviews, all kinds of good content over at the Angle podcast. So we're going to get your takes on some of these matches. And the one that was probably surprising that it ended up on a takeover, Xia Li, Mercedes Martinez. This does seem like more of a throwback to the original takeover days where we're not seeing a cruiserweight title match. We don't see a women's tag team title match. We're getting this sort of mid-card. I don't even know if it's a blow-off right now. How do you see this one going between Mercedes and Xia Li?
Well, first off, I'm just excited to see a women's match on the card, on a pay-per-view card, that's not for any title. So this is really, really nice to see. But I think seeing both women being built up right now, I mean, Xia Li having a whole new direction, Mercedes Martinez really just being elevated anywhere they can put her. I do think that this is going to go to Xia Li.
I do too. Reminder, guys, please leave a thumbs up, donate a super chat, get your question or statement read on the air. That stuff helps a lot. I think Xia Li is probably going to end up winning this as well. I mean, it would seem counterproductive to do all this origin story and all that and then just have Xia Li lose, although I'm not convinced they also wouldn't do that because they've made some puzzling decisions in the past. We have a super chat from Makovsky. He says, "Oh, Shat, you actually got him on. What's good, dude? We've talked on Twitter, Joe. Cole winning, then Kyle winning at SummerSlam TakeOver, I think." Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But, yeah, we're both on board with Xia Li. Let's talk about the other women's match on the card, Raquel Gonzalez and Ember Moon. This one seems like a slam dunk to me. Raquel Gonzalez is probably going to win. Most of these matches are pretty predictable in the winner for me, but I still think that this is going to be like an unbelievable in-ring show. Is there any doubt in your mind that Raquel's winning this?
Not any doubt. I definitely think that she's winning, but I definitely think that Ember Moon is highly underrated, especially as a singles competitor. I think this match happening because obviously Shotzi Blackheart is injured, letting her fill in this role. But I think people are really going to be surprised as to what she can do because with her previous experience in NXT and just title matches in general, I think this is going to be a shocker for most, especially to elevate Raquel.
Yeah, for months and months, probably the first couple of years of AEW, a lot of people would ask me, "Oh, who would be a good fit for AEW that WWE might not miss?" And based on how she was used, I said Ember Moon. Yeah. She's got experience. She's got in-ring. She could kind of lead that. Now, I don't know if I don't think AEW's women's division necessarily needs her. They're coming together really well. But we're seeing her transition right out of a tag team into this. So I'm not giving this much of a shot. Shotzi Blackheart says she's hurt. We're trying to work to find out if that's storyline or not. But I think Raquel's going to win this. I think it's going to be an awesome match.
Absolutely.
I also think the winner-take-all match is going to be really good. Bronson Reed, MSK against Legado del Fantasma. I'm not necessarily on board with Santos Escobar losing 2 cruiserweight title matches, then bam, North American title. And especially if he loses this one, it's like, where does he go? It is possible that all 3 titles will switch here. Do you think there's any possibility of it, though?
There is a possibility, and it's because we've seen Legado del Fantasma just rise up really out of nowhere over the last, you can say, 6 months or so. But also the same thing with MSK, so it really does go back and forth. But if you're going to take the titles off of them, I mean, this is the best way to do it without having to actually let them take a pin. I think Santos Escobar, he is destined for greatness, regardless if it's NXT or if he goes to Raw or SmackDown in the future. Like you said, though, having 2 losses in the cruiserweight title matches and then maybe taking a loss here, really not a good look for him. But is there really any other way to do that, like move him to a different division, sort of say, without having him eat some losses.
Oh, this match is going to be so good. I just know they're going to go all out. It's another one of these that I look at and I'm like, all right, I don't think they're going to win, but man, this match is going to rule. It's going to be so awesome. They're going to sell me a ticket a couple different times on those near falls. I just know there will be at least one or two near falls where I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do it. And then they don't. But I mean, that's
different styles in there too. I mean, you have Bronson Reed, who's a bigger guy. You have the Lucha Libre style from Legado del Fantasma, and you have the high flying style from MSK. And mixing that all together, I think, is just it's probably going to be one of the top matches of the entire night.
So always or often at NXT Takeover. Sorry about my word soup today, guys. Often at NXT Takeover, we see people in the crowd. We see the new debuts in the crowd. We see new faces or familiar faces. Do you think we see any of them on Sunday?
I'm not sure because there is no I mean, there is a crowd, but there's not really a full crowd. So I don't think that they would put someone in the crowd for this particular event. Maybe for SummerSlam weekend, if they do a show and there's a bunch of fans there, that's when they'd probably do it. But in this case, since there's no fans, if they do bring someone in, it's probably going to be like a run-in or a backstage segment or something like that. But who knows? I mean, NXT takeovers are full of surprises, and in your house would be a great way to do it.
Speaking of, we just got a super chat from Throwback who says, with Kaylee Ray losing last night, could there be a possibility she pops in at TakeOver? Do you see Raquel being one of the call-ups? Ember versus Ray may be interesting. I think it'd be very Keith Lee-ish of them to drop the title off of Raquel right now. I don't think she should be dropping that title. And if she does, she shouldn't be eating the pin. Raquel should be supremely protected. Yep. I do think there's a possibility Kaylee Ray could pop up at TakeOver, but I see Kaylee Ray more as a challenger to Raquel than somebody that they'd move on to right after that.
Yeah.
Oh, the $1 Million Championship. I am so excited this belt's back. I love it. Now, a few months ago, Triple H did say, we don't want 20 titles just for the sake of having 20 titles. And then they debuted 2 new belts. The $1 Million Championship, Cameron Grimes, LA Knight. LA Knight seems to me like one of those guys that Vince is going to see, and he'll be like, I just bring him to Raw or SmackDown or something like that. And he'll be feuding with Elias in September. Cameron Grimes, this would really enhance his character and take it to the next level, I think. And I think he's the baby face in this for me. Like I sympathize with him more. I like him more. I think he's going to win this.
And after the promo we saw in NXT from him, I mean, that was probably the best promo I've seen of him in his time in NXT. And LA Knight, I mean, anytime this guy talks, everyone's glued to the TV watching. Everyone's glued to seeing what he's going to say. This one, I think, is probably the most interesting story that NXT has running right now.
I love it. And like you mentioned, Cameron Grimes, his promo work throughout this has been good. Like him saying he was going to kick LA Knight's ass to the moon was such a baby face thing to say. I was like, man, that's so good. That's just so natural. It's so perfect for what he does. And he's a likable guy. So I'm going with him here. And then go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm definitely going to go with Cameron Grimes here. I think that back to what you said with Triple H kind of saying that he doesn't want to have so many titles. Do you think this is actually going to be a title that's like defended, or is more going to be like a prop for Cameron Grimes to just be elevated?
I do think it'll be a prop because Triple H wouldn't really emphasize the plans or wouldn't really expand on the plans.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'll be to enhance his character.
Yeah.
Definitely. With the NXT Championship, Karrion Kross defends against Johnny Gargano, who we interviewed recently, Kyle O'Reilly, who we interviewed this week, Adam Cole, and Pete Dunne. This would be a very easy way to get Karrion Kross up to the main roster if they wanted, and to move the title off of him without getting pinned. Now, on the last media call, Shawn Michaels and Triple H were like, well, I think it's kind of funny because nobody talks about people leaving Raw and SmackDown when they lose, but they do whenever there's a draft coming up. And NXT is always drafted from. They always pull stuff from NXT. Makovsky says that's just a fact of life. Yeah, dummy. But I think it's really possible that Johnny wins this because they have featured him so much on the show, and it would be a very heel thing to not pin the champion, steal a win. Who do you think's winning this?
And speaking of Gargano, I mean, he's already in a small, I guess you can say, a small story with Karrion Kross months before. I mean, he was doing some work with Karrion, with Austin Theory as well. So all of these stories kind of tie together. I would be happy to see any of these guys win just because they're all great. I think the dark horse here is Pete Dunne.
There you go.
It would be a big shock to see Pete Dunne win the title. Regardless of who wins, I think Adam Cole is taking the pin here because everyone's out for him. So I think he's going to be the one that goes down. But I would love to see Pete Dunne become the NXT champion. Yeah,
they've really leaned into like the brooding champion over the last year, really. Karrion Kross and Finn Balor, and if they did that with Pete Dunne, they would be leaning into that as well. What do you think match of the night's going to be?
Match of the night, it's between the NXT title match and the winner take all match. It's difficult to call. I definitely think it's going to be the NXT title match. There's just so much star power in this match, and from what we saw in the Go Home show this past week on NXT closing out the show, I was hyped for that show just from seeing that. So if we see more of that in your house, match of the night.
Joe, I want to thank you for joining me. Tell the people what you do over at the Angle Podcast.
Awesome. Yeah. So I am the host, creator, whatever you want to call it, of the Angle Podcast. It's basically a spot for fans and myself to talk about the fan side of pro wrestling, not just the business side. And I get to talk about that with different superstars. I just had on Eric Bischoff, had Rosemary on, a lot of different people, even the likes of Ryback and Shane Helms. So a lot of different superstars get their take on pro wrestling and kind of their backstory.
Guys, check it out, the Angle Podcast. Joe, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Until next time, guys, we're out.